Here I have two lines that are clearly not parallel, and I have a third line that intersects those two previous lines at two distinct points. Now, such a line that intersects two other lines at two distinct points is known as a transversal. Now, in this case, I can spot a few linear pairs, and I can also spot a few vertically opposite angles, but nothing really cool happens in such a case where these two lines are not parallel. Now, here I have two parallel lines, and I have my transversal that intersects those two parallel lines at two distinct points. Now, let me just quickly locate and label all the angles that I can see in this region. So that's one angle, that's another angle, that's another angle, and that's the fourth angle, right? Now, similarly, around this point of intersection, I can also locate four angles, right? These are all the angles that I can see in this particular figure, right? Now, in this local region, around this first point of intersection, I can locate quite a few relationships, right? This red angle and this yellow angle together form a linear pair. Similarly, this red angle and this purple angle are vertically opposite angles and therefore they are equal. We've learned about this in the previous videos, right? Now, is it possible? And same thing applies to this the angles around the second point of intersection also, right? Now, is it possible for us to establish a relationship between these angles, the angles around the first point of intersection, and the angles around the second point of intersection? Now, that is exactly the topic of discussion of this particular video. Now, what I'll do is I'll simply draw a line or a box around this first area, around the first point of intersection, and let me simply cut out this area so that I can move it around. Now, I've cut out this particular area, and at this point, if you observe, I have color coded all the angles around both the points of intersection in a certain way. Now you will realize why I have done so in a moment, right? So I'll quickly drag this cutout and let me quickly bring it along here over the top of on the top of this, and there, there you see it overlaps perfectly with the second set of angles, right? The first set of angles or the angles around the first point of intersection overlap perfectly with the angles around the second point of intersection. Now that is a pretty cool thing. In addition to this, if you observe that this red angle overlaps with this red angle, right? And the yellow angle overlaps with the yellow angle. And similarly the purple with the purple and the gray with the gray. So all the similarly colored angles overlap with their corresponding angle, right? So if I place it back, now you can see that this red angle, it was this red angle that overlapped perfectly with this red angle. So these two angles correspond to each other. Now, what exactly are corresponding angles? Corresponding angles are those. So for your uh, so how do we remember corresponding angles? Well, you can simply imagine cutting out this section and bringing it along to this place, and whatever angle will overlap with each other, they will be corresponding angles, right? So we just saw that this red angle overlapped with this red angle. Similarly, this yellow one overlapped with this yellow one. So these are their respective corresponding angles. The red corresponds with this red and the yellow corresponds with this yellow. Apart from this, one may also remember that if you carefully see, this red angle, it's towards the top and the left corner of this point of intersection. Similarly, this red angle is also towards the top and left side of this point of its respective point of intersection, if that makes sense, right? So now that we've learned what corresponding angles are, we've also seen that they overlap perfectly. So what conclusion can we draw from this activity that we've done? Well, we may conclude that because these corresponding angles overlap perfectly, they must be equal, right? So that means this red angle must be equal to this red angle, and this yellow angle must be equal to this yellow angle. This purple one must be equal to this purple one, and lastly, this gray one must be equal to this gray one, right? So essentially, we can conclude that corresponding angles are equal to each other. So